that's when I realized that I shouldn't be doing yachting anymore. I should be following my passion with horses. Hey everyone, this is Taylor from Wild Reverence, and today I wanted to share my story with all of you, starting from childhood up until now. So, my life has always revolved around horses. Horses have always been a major part of my life and my journey. I have been riding since I was about 6 or 7 at a riding school in Chartwell, Johannesburg. There I was getting into it, jumping roughly 80 centimeters with the riding instructor at the time. And my mom made me try out so many different things: ballet, soccer, after school activities, and I wasn't really interested in any of them. But when she took me to my first horse riding lesson, that's when we all knew, and that's when I knew that this is what I love. So of course it was costly at the time, but even now it's still costly. But my mom wanted to make me happy, and so we went once a week to Chartwell. And yeah, I was jumping 80 centimeters, and even now I'm still shocked that that's what I was doing at such a young age. But after some time, my riding instructor at the time was going through something personal, and she didn't want to teach anymore. So we had to move riding schools. We then moved to another one in Chartwell, about 2 minutes down the road from that original one. But there my riding wasn't really much of a priority. And I wasn't jumping as high anymore. I was just going around in circles. But I didn't say anything, obviously, and I was just happy to be with horses and doing what I loved the most, which was riding. And then after some time, right before I was about to go into my teen years, we moved houses. We moved to our beautiful home in Kailami that I'm on now, that we are at now. And we didn't want to drive all the way from here to Chartwell. It's a pretty far drive. So we decided to look for riding schools in the area because Kailami is known for equestrian. And we decided to choose the one down the road from us, which is Mean Greenies with Shirley Green. So joining Shirley was quite the experience. My first day there was pretty scary, or my demonstration. I was told to just jump a course straight off the bat, which was pretty nerve-wracking in a new environment with people I don't know, with horses I don't know. But I did it anyway, and I was told I have a lot of show jumping potential. So we stuck with her, and I began my 1 week lessons again. And that was interesting. I was mainly going on a Friday, so even if I had the worst week at school, I still had my riding at the end of the week, which always made me feel better. I was told I am really good and should compete and enter competitions around the area, but I was always too nervous and I did lack the confidence in doing so. There was one particular horse who I grew very close with, and his name was Jack Daniels, Jack for short, and he was my favorite. I had ridden him for years, and eventually I got to the point where I trusted him with my whole life. We would jump together, we would canter, and he was my teammate. There were other horses, of course, that I rode if Jack was busy or if they wanted me to switch, because I think at riding schools, when you get too comfortable with one horse, they want you to branch out to other horses or to just experience the feeling of riding a new horse or a horse that you don't know. So yeah, but even if I was told to ride someone else, I would always inquire, is there a reason I can't ride Jack? And Jack was my buddy. I loved him so much. And my favorite thing to do was go on the cool down ride at the end of each lesson. And that was in the really large field that Shirley has, where you can go on mini out rides. And I would always ask to go out, just to be by ourselves. So even if the lesson didn't go well, we still had the out ride to look forward to. And I would let him canter and gallop up the hill, and he never took advantage of that or of me, and it was really, really fun. It was very special moments that I shared with him up until the day he was sold to another couple. My heart was very broken, obviously, and I really didn't want him to go, but we couldn't afford our own horse, and Shirley was selling him, and they took him, I think, to another province. So that was even worse, because I thought, my dreamlike state of mind thought I could go visit him or see him once in a while, but I had no idea where they were taking him or why they even wanted him when I don't think they could even ride. But that was not my decision. And so losing Jack was, one of the hard things that I had to deal with in my horse life. But I think something that was out of my hands. There were obviously other horses that I connected with and rode and continued learning, but no one could ever be like Jack Daniels. So I think he's still alive now, but I think he's pretty old, and hopefully one day I could see him again. But then towards the end of my teenage years, I started slowly going less and less for riding lessons, still at the same yard. I'm not sure why. I think I was just getting bored of the same routine, going around in the arena, doing the same thing, learning the same thing over. And of course you need years and years to practice riding, but remember, I'd been riding since 6, and I thought, okay, I wanted to do more recreational riding, so to say, more out rides, adventures, but unfortunately in Kyalami we don't have nice Drakensberg mountains or any sort of mountains or beach. We only have the grass fields and the arenas. So I started to make excuses to my riding instructor, and I prayed for it to rain so I didn't have to go, but then I also felt really guilty for not going. So my relationship with riding as a sport became very rocky. And then when I left school completely, when I finished high school, that's when it ended. That was the break from riding. So at the end of high school, as most people are not sure what they want to do with the rest of their lives, I was one amongst many. After high school, I was confused. I knew that I didn't want to study straight away, and I knew that I wanted to travel, but we did not come from a wealthy bloodline, so I wasn't sure what to do. So it was actually my mother's idea that yachting, boating, or cruise ships could be an option. I would often say to her, I'm really not sure what to do with my life. I'm not sure what to do now. I'm still so young. What do I do? It's because my mother and I have a very close relationship, so I felt comfortable enough to tell her my fears and doubts. So we looked into courses for yachting and found out that it was actually quite costly. And again, no wealthy bloodline. So it was a matter of if I did the courses, would I stick with it? And it was also a bit of a gamble. Yachting is not quite an easy industry to get your foot into. So it was very rocky, very much a gamble, 50-50 situation. So my grandfather had thankfully put some savings away for me to study, and we ended up using that amount to cover the costs of the courses, which were in Cape Town. In Cape Town, I was there for about 3 weeks. I was paying for food, accommodation, and of course the courses, which were the most expensive. And yeah, the courses were not difficult. You only needed a certain amount of certificates in order to be entry level, to be accepted as a team member on board. And I knew then, while I was there, that it was make or break. So after the courses, this was during COVID time, so for me it was actually really difficult to get into due to the fact of COVID and the restrictions of travel, plane craft, traveling, and all sorts of things. We all know how COVID ruined a lot of our time and our lives. So it took about a year or so for me to be able to fly overseas. And even when I was able to, again, money was the problem. So I was fortunate enough to have my mother fund me, thankfully. And I went to stay with my biological father, who I hadn't seen in 16 years. I went to Spain, Malaga, to dock walk. All new yachties will know dock walking. All yachties will know of dock walking. So obviously the main thing of yachting is, in order to be able to work on a boat, you need experience. So how does one get experience? You need to do day work. Day work is not a permanent contract, not a temporary contract. Well, it's more temporary, but not a seasonal contract. It's literally you get paid daily to do this, and this that someone said. So I found a very nice man to take me under his wing, a captain, an Irish captain, who I still keep in touch with sometimes. And he showed me all the ropes. He taught me about deck, even though I was only interested in working inside, on the interior. And he was the one who helped me get my first job, which was very kind, and I'm forever thankful for him and his help in getting me to where I wanted to be. So from my first job, up until this year, I have been in yachting on and off. I have had good experiences, I've had bad experiences, but at some point closer towards the end of it, I did realize that it's actually not for me. A lot of people love it, especially those with OCD. They love to organize and keep things clean, and everything has to be perfect and pristine, and you have to be perfect and pristine and clean, and you just have to be a walking embodiment of perfection. And I'm not that. So me in yachting was great. There was traveling, which was what attracted me to the industry in the first place, and of course the salaries grew. Salaries just ascended once I got more and more experience, so that was excellent. But the part of working many hours, many shifts, losing your sanity did not appeal to me. But I stuck it out for some time, obviously, and I have worked on 7 boats now, and that's not a really good number in the yachting industry. Usually people look for longevity, that you've worked on a boat for 1 year or the same boat for 1 or 2 years or more, and then you are more eligible to be hired, because if it looks like you've been boat hopping, then you look unreliable, untrustworthy, and all the negative things, even if you have your specific reasons why those boats didn't work out. But there's a lack of empathy in the industry and an oversaturation in this time. So I thought it was oversaturated when I started, but now looking back, when I was trying to look for jobs in the beginning of the year, it's completely oversaturated. I'm surprised I even got a temporary job in March. But I think the last boat that I was on, which was a temporary contract for me, when things started to go south with that specific boat, that's when I realized that I shouldn't be doing yachting anymore. I should be following my passion with horses, because I always had them in the back of my mind during the times of yachting, and I remembered why I was working so hard and why I was there in the first place. Yes, to travel and explore and have good experiences, but also to build a future life for myself that I was actually happy in, with a large piece of land, with the horses that I want, and just being happy. So that's why my yachting has come to an end. And here we are with Wild Reverence, the brand that I have started by myself with my dear brand manager's assistance. Wild Reverence started unexpectedly with nothing to something, with a passion for equestrian life, for horses, for slow living, for living the way that I want to. I was volunteering at Society for Animals in Distress since last year. Well, technically since I was 16 when I tried to adopt another horse, but that's a story for another day. But I've known of Society for Animals in Distress for a long time, and I got back into it somewhere last year before my 6th boat. I was volunteering to keep me busy, to get back into horses, and I came across a lot of beautiful rescued horses. One which was Teddy, who unfortunately passed away. He was a beautiful boy. Also a horse I would like to speak about another time. And then there were always Phantom and Da Vinci, who are behind me at the moment. They became my goal. They became my ambition, particularly Phantom, though, my heart horse, as you all know from the riding YouTube video and the Meet Phantom video, which I hope you have seen. Phantom is a very special horse. She was once wild and all of that, which I did explain, but getting to know Phantom was interesting, and I met her before flying away unexpectedly for my last boat that I was just on. I just had started getting to know her until I found a temporary job, and I had to leave within 4 days. And I was worried that someone else would see her potential or take her away or adopt her or something of the sorts. But then something my mother said, which was beautiful, was, if it's meant to be, it will be. If she's still here when you're back, then she is meant to be yours. And I did believe that, even though I knew I would miss her. And Da Vinci, who is goofy. Oh, she knows we're talking about her. She's a very clever horse as well, both of them. She is not stupid. She knows exactly what's going on. We started with a more of a serious relationship, more of a serious connection, and it has just blossomed, as you can see. She is just my best friend. She's my best friend. I don't have a halter, I don't have a lead rope, I don't have anything in my hand, I don't have treats. What can one say? But anyway, thank you for coming to say hello, Phantom. Da Vinci is more on his own terms kind of horse. He's quite stubborn, like a donkey. But anyway, the adoption of Phantom specifically was very much one of those rushed things. Not rushed, but kind of, this is the horse I want. Is she adoptable? Is she rideable? Can she be rehomed? Can all of those things happen? Don't you love hardy daws? Fellow South Africans. Yeah, so when I returned from yachting, it wasn't just bonding and connecting, it was more of training and working with her with the help of my mentor Jean from Animals in Distress. And we started with the basics of being able to put a halter on her, which took about 4 days for her to get used to it. It was kind of like a Texas Wrangler thing, and that was fun, but eventually I think she understood the purpose of the halter, the purpose of why it was happening, and the reasoning behind it all. So once she understood the halter and that it wasn't going to hurt her, things just became easier from there. Da Vinci never had a problem with any of it, with halters, with grooming, with being touched, with being loved. Hi, Asher. Hey, buddy. My aunt's cat featuring again. He was in the field video, the field transformation video. Clearly, he still likes the field. Anyway, so yes, Phantom was the wild, untamed, unrideable horse, and with Jean's help, we turned her. We kept her wild, but we partnered her. I partnered with her. It ended up not breaking, partnering. A beautiful line from Black Beauty, the 2020 movie, or whichever one it was. We partner, right? We don't break them in, we partner with them. And as you can see, Phantom and I have partnered very nicely. She still struggles with putting a bit in her mouth. We believe she's had some head trauma, that someone may have forced a bit or forced the bridle on her or was cruel to her regarding that situation. But with patience and consistency and with trust, I think we will eventually get there. I've been on it twice, once at Animals in Distress and once in our ring, my ring. And it was delightful. I had gotten on her without any professionals around, with just my aunt, just me, just Phantom. I was shaking with nerves because I'd seen that she is still not completely comfortable. And it took me about 5 minutes to stand on that chair and actually just swing my leg over and just get on. But once I did, and once I realized nothing was going to happen, that she wasn't going to hurt me on purpose, I relaxed into it and I was full of excitement. So, that being said, as much as Wild Reverence is surrounded by horses, is majorly about horses and my adopted horses, because as we know, I condone adopting, not shopping. Please adopt rather than shop, because there are so many beautiful animals out there looking for homes, who just want a second chance at life. And if us people could just help them in that way, that would be great. But Wild Reverence is more than that. It's about my life, my journey, and growing into a fast-paced traveling lifestyle, into a slow living, peaceful, horsey, artsy craftsy life. So if you want to follow along or ask questions or subscribe or any of those things, please visit wildreverence.com on Google Chrome. And thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed.